Welcome back, everyone. Joined again by Steve Valiquette and head coach David Quinn in a great breakdown of power forward extraordinaire Chris Kreider. And we're now joined by another power forward in 1994 Stanley Cup champ, a guy who wears a lot of hats in the Rangers organization, Adam Graves. Adam, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be with you guys.
We know that you miss hockey. We know you miss watching the Rangers. They really started to find their groove when the season was paused. We're curious, what are your observations of the team's growth this season and what excites you about their overall potential?
Well, certainly there wasn't a day that I didn't look forward to watching this Ranger team play, and down the stretch, the maturation, the organic growth of all the young players, and certainly having Quinner here, I don't want to sound like I'm being too complimentary, but the culture that he is, that has been created, the accountability, the respect amongst the players, and really the growth of the young players and the leadership of the older players and the coaching staff, I think is created an atmosphere. And when you add a player like Panarin, who is a top 3 or 4 player in the entire league, it just elevates, I think, the level of every player within that locker room. And then you see the growth of number 93. And I've said this before because Artemi was phenomenal and has been one of the elite minds players in the league. But when you looked at number 93, Mika's game the last 6 to 8 weeks, if he wasn't the best player in the National Hockey League, I'd like for someone to tell me who was. Then you see the young guys like Fox and Lindgren and their growth in such a short period of time. And D'Angelo, who I've watched since he was in the junior days, where he's really coming into his own. And then you have, your elder statesmen that are just wonderful champions and great people from number 30, who has been phenomenal for 15 years and what he's meant to our young goaltenders, to guys like Chris Kreider, who he's as good a teammate and as good a person, and he brings it in incredible shape. Mark Stahl, the list goes on. And for me as a former player and certainly part of the organization, I just love, there's not a more exciting team to watch in the National Hockey League. And certainly the momentum that was building as we got into late February, early March. No one wanted to play against the Rangers, and I'm sure moving forward, hopefully we can pick up and build on that.
Gravy, I'd like to ask you about your time playing in front of the other team's goalie and being a net front presence. I recall a dinner I had with the guys on the road once where Scott Gomez stepped up and said, "I got to be honest with you, Valley, I'm afraid of getting hit by the puck." And then it went around the table, Gravy, and everybody pretty much conceded that they don't like to get hit by the puck. So my question to you is, how do you quiet that voice in your head to do it the right way and not get out of the way and look scared?
It's interesting, and certainly it's different now. The pucks are, obviously guys shoot the puck harder. It's harder to get the puck through. So sometimes you don't see the slap shots, you see more wrist shots and seeing eye pucks. And when you think of a guy like Fox, that's what you point to. It's not, hey, he's going to blast it through you. He's going to figure out a way to get the puck through so you can get a Kreider who's in front of the net and get a stick on it. I will tell you that back in the day, I didn't wear glasses and I had 20/20 vision. And I also quickly realized, playing with elite players like Leachy and Mess, and I started in Detroit with Yzerman, I quickly realized that I had to specialize my game a little bit more. And I was always a strong guy, I had a good base. I was, although I wasn't tall, I'm 6 foot, but always heavy and was hard to knock off my skates. I quickly realized that I had to, I think, design my game more around the people I was playing with and complement their game and benefit, and their game simplified my game. But standing in front of the net, and I will tell you, close to 400 stitches in my face, had all my teeth, have been courtesy of the dentist, been replaced, nose broken 9 times, this and that. So I had my share of pucks and that. But for me, it was just focusing on where the puck was all the time. And when you have guys like Sergei Zubov and Brian Leach shooting from the point, they know where the puck's going. And I can tell you, I can remember saying to Leachy, listen, this goaltender is always down, trying to look below. So I want you to shoot it at my shoulders and I will just move. And that's, and you kind of talk and you communicate and everything else. But I always felt, and I know that we've tried to do this in New York, that if you stand in front of the goalie and then when the puck comes, you jump out of the way and try to tip it, you're actually not doing the job that that you should be doing, even in today's game. Because if goalies, especially goalies today, if they can see the puck, they're stopping it every time. And the best goalies are made to look rather average when they can't see the puck. And for me, even if you're standing in front of the goaltender and he doesn't see the puck and the puck comes and you don't get your stick on it, so you don't tip it, you're still doing your job because you're screening the goalie. So if you can get your stick on it and your screen, you're doing two jobs. But if you step out of the way and you don't get your stick on it, you're not doing anything. So for me, it's staying in there, and a big-bodied guy like Kreis does it so well. And he's really, with his speed, he's got so many elements. His shot and stride is as good as there is in the National Hockey League. But he can also do that type of game where it's standing still. It's in one spot. He doesn't just have to rely on his strength with momentum. He can do it standing still. He's 225, 230 pounds, incredibly, one of the strongest guys in the National Hockey League. He's got great hand-eye. He's a big body. He screens the goalie. And you've seen it, like little wrist shots where you go, wow, that wasn't a hard shot. But because the goalie couldn't track it, because the big-bodied Kreider, number 20 in front of him, that's what you need.
Coach, you were in your mid-20s then when the Rangers clinched the Cup. So I'm curious, what were your impressions of that 94 team? Because you were just really embarking on your coaching career.
Yeah, I was actually coaching at Northeastern at the time, and obviously with my relationship with Leachy and Mike Richter, I was teammates with him before, and we grew up playing youth hockey against each other and got to know each other, being teammates. And I had some familiarity with the organization. Even though I was in Boston, I was rooting for the Rangers during that stretch because I thought, number one, it'd be great to see my friends win a Stanley Cup, and two, I thought for hockey in general, it would be a great moment for hockey to have the New York Rangers win the Stanley Cup. And I'll never forget getting ready for Game 7. I was excited that day, and remember what a great series that was. And what more could hockey, the sport of hockey, ask for than having a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden for the Stanley Cup? And the way that game unfolded, the way the whole series unfolded, was such a special time for hockey and very important for hockey in general. But obviously a magical moment for Gravy and Leachy and Ricky and the Rangers in general. So. It was an exciting time, not only for New York, but I think for hockey in general.
Well, it's just interesting, Gravy, that you have experienced a lockout-shortened season where you came back after a lot of time off. What do you remember about coming back after the Stanley Cup in '94? You're coming back and playing 48 games in the 94-95 season. Do you remember practicing for the first time, what you felt like? Can you share some of those experiences with our viewers and maybe even the Ranger players before they begin training camp?
It so happened that after that final game against Vancouver, I didn't play another game before I had back surgery. Standing in front of the net and the abuse, I had herniated a disc, so I had to go to Los Angeles during the lockout in that September, October, had surgery, and then rehabbed during the lockout. So when I first came back, it was post back surgery. So I actually didn't miss any games after having surgery because of the lockout.
Oh, wow.
But think about that, because I've said this before, chatting with different people, just as far as what this means for our current team. And the things that I really like about this, and I liken it back to when we were skating, and Quinn, you'd probably, you can speak to this, Valley, you can speak to this. Back in the day, you used to get 2 days off at Christmas. So you would get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so the 24th and 25th. You come back on the 26th, usually have a morning skate and play that night. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that morning skate, your back felt like it was going to seize up. You were only off your skates for 2 days. You felt like you hadn't skated in months because you're so finely tuned that, and to miss a couple of days, it was so difficult to come back even after 2 days. Fast forward it to today, there's such a balance and there's such a focus on detail as far as preparation and eating and days off and rest and balance and all these things. But the thing that I love about our current team is we are young. We had at some points, 7, 8 players under 21, 22 years of age playing. And for me, just the body and the ability to recover and the ability to get up to speed in a hurry. I feel like that for me watching as obviously I bleed blue, but I think that can be an advantage for us. And I think that momentum and the confidence, and for young guys like Kako, who just came off. He's had that experience of entire season. Now he's coming back, and it's like in the mind, it does something with the mind when you can reflect back and know I have that experience under my belt. For a lot of our young guys, that was, and I know it was a shortened season, but they have that experience under their belt that I think is going to really help their confidence coming back in a shortened, hopefully a shortened, run here with all things, assuming that we get back on the ice. I think it's going to be a real benefit to us.